Either they keep raising rates and crash the entire economy worse than we saw in the Depression of the 1930s, or they're going to reverse course and engage in another round of money printing, and that would imply hyperinflation.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Daily Crypto. We are back with another educational video for you guys, and this time we have Max Keiser with us. But before we start with the interview, let's take a look at the Fear and Greed Index. As of recording this video, it is currently at 28, whereas Bitcoin and Ethereum are trading for $20150 and $1,591 respectively. With that being said, let's continue with the video.
Once the inflation starts to become a problem that's not going away, that's not transitory, that the excuses made by government and policymakers will get more and more outlandish, more convoluted, more bizarre. And so that's what we're seeing now, is this really, really odd, strange attempt to say that the inflation is somehow not completely out of control. And so this is predictable. This happens, this is historically what happens.
Whenever inflation has risen dramatically, politicians always try to cover the truth to avoid negative publicity and instead make lame excuses to cover their name. Max thinks this is exactly what the government is doing at the moment.
The tools that the central bank has at their disposal are very blunt objects, and there's no room for nuance, really. There's only two possible outcomes. Either they keep raising rates and crash the entire economy worse than we saw in the Depression of the 1930s, or they're going to reverse course and engage in another round of money printing, and that would imply hyperinflation. Even Jack Dorsey saw the hyperinflation writing on the wall 6 months ago. Michael Saylor eloquently described what's happening as the melting ice cube, right? A lot of smart people have been warning about this for a while. I think that what we can say is that at some point the Fed will choke and they'll go back to massive money printing, and then the inflation will get really nasty. So then that's when you have, that's when you have gas at $10 a gallon. That's when you have food doubling and tripling again in price. That's when you have housing taking another huge leap higher. And so that's going to be the end of the post-war period of what some would call the American Empire. So it lasted from 1940s to 2022, 2023. That was the American Empire. That was the period. So that's it.
Max says there are really just two options left for the Federal Reserve. One is to keep increasing rates and crash the entire economy, or go back to printing trillions of dollars and bring about hyperinflation. So much so that we might see food prices triple from current prices. This will be extremely detrimental for the economy.
Going back to what we said at the beginning about inflation, the mainstream media was warning about deflation for years, and the mainstream media didn't think all that money printing would have any consequences. And the inflation genie's out of the bottle. They said it was transitory. And all as a chorus, they've been pushing pro-Wall Street propaganda. And we saw all the propaganda pushed on behalf of the mRNA stuff. That's turned out to be massive psyops. And so now you've got the same machinery in place, all in lockstep, without a single dissenting voice in American mainstream media, pushing the same talking points concerning El Salvador. And well, one phrase in particular stands out from what you just read, and that would be dismantling democracy. So the reason this is patently false and demonstrably false is that the president of El Salvador made Bitcoin legal tender, and in so doing gave 7 million Salvadorans the right to unconfiscatable, uncensorable wealth and property. Now, this is decentralization, democracy. Okay, this is the complete opposite of the claim of dismantling this democracy.
Ever since El Salvador made Bitcoin legal tender, it has been in the media's eyes consistently. There are numerous articles published about El Salvador and why it's going to go bankrupt because of its pro-Bitcoin stance. Max believes this is just the media trying to defame their young president for introducing his people to decentralized ownership.
It reveals that the notion of democracy in the American press is no longer consistent with that as expressed in the Constitution and the founding documents of the U.S. The U.S., the phrase the quote that you're talking about that I said was that Bitcoin is a mirror that exposes people in a way. If you're a bad person, it exposes you to be a worse person. If you're a good person, it tends to show you in even a better light. Michael Saylor was an unknown CEO, and Bitcoin made him into a Bitcoin legend. The founder of the BSV project was already on shaky grounds in terms of mental stability, and Bitcoin turned him into a full-fledged psychopath. Right? So that's the power of Bitcoin. It's a force multiplier. So it's revealing the fact that the press in America is sadly in a sad state where the truth is seen as the enemy of the state.
Max says it is the media channels that are trying to hide the truth from people. Instead of portraying the real image of Bitcoin, they're committed to highlighting and exaggerating negative events just to prevent Bitcoin adoption. But it is a war that cryptocurrencies have already won because crypto adoption continues to grow every single day.
As you've seen recently, the president of El Salvador has now put forward a program to buy back their sovereign debt in the open market. So they are reducing their debt. The IMF loan, as I suggested to the president a few months ago, which he made a public acknowledgement of and is now following up on, is to pay off the IMF debt completely with the volcano bonds that are in the works. I think that the one major misconception about El Salvador's economic position versus the IMF and other creditors is that here in El Salvador, with the economy growing at over 10% a year, tourism exploding, forward investment incoming in the billions, all the other positive things that are going on, El Salvador literally has the ability to pick and choose when they want to do stuff. They'll take care of the IMF when it's convenient for El Salvador. So the IMF can squawk all they want. I know, little inside baseball here, that the IMF is scared shitless about El Salvador making Bitcoin legal tender, and they're constantly, almost every day, trying to weasel their way in and have the language changed on the law. And every single day, the president essentially gives them the finger and tells the IMF to fuck themselves. And then he uses, and many times he uses those exact phrases.
With Argentina agreeing with the IMF to discourage crypto use for a debt deal, it goes to show how concerned a huge institution like the IMF are about cryptocurrencies. El Salvador has been essentially targeted to change their Bitcoin laws, but their president isn't budging since he is a firm believer in Bitcoin. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to press the like button and subscribe to our channel to never miss another upload. See you guys in the next video.